Share my screen. If you do have questions, please just interrupt me as we go through this. Individuals may join as we move forward, but that'll be great. So today we're going to go over a few things. We're going to look at the budget season timeline one more time. I'm going to remind you about the state budget, tuition and fee recommendations. I actually think I took those out of this presentation, but we'll talk about them. We're going to talk about our revenue assumptions and our expenditure assumptions, and then I'll open it up for questions. For the Community College Support Fund, just a reminder of where we're at. With the state, they bring forward two budgets to us. One is the agency requested budget, or the ARB. One is the governor's requested budget, which is the GRB. And then we end up with the LAB, which is the legislatively adopted budget. So you can see the legislatively adopted budget for 23-25 was $795.9 million. And the governor's recommended budget for 25-27 is $854.4 million. And so there's an increase there that we're looking at, and that is not a final budget. That is just what's recommended at this time. And so as we go through the beginning of this biennium, and as they get ready for it, we will learn what the actual legislatively adopted budget will be, most likely towards the middle to end of June. So lots of work will be done in the coming months. One of the larger changes when you look at the set asides right here at 62 million, where you see it was 23.8 million in the past. Remember, we adopted the student support and student success component of the model in 23-25, and they set aside 12.5 million, which they're dispersing in this fiscal year. For 25-27, they are setting aside $50 million for the student success, student support components, and they will be distributing that each 60% in the first year and 40% in the first year of the biennium and 60% in the second year of the biennium. I didn't put this on my agenda, but there are still accounting changes. You'll remember last year we're trying to consolidate as many funds as possible. And so we are retiring the renewal and replacement fund. With zero-based budgeting, it changes our philosophy and how we set aside funds. So the renewal and replacement fund, that is where we used to pay for all of our technology. So IT, computers, all of those, that type of items, all of the equipment, and then in instructional equipment. And we are now moving that to the general fund. So you will see that when I show the requested budget projections in a little bit. And then we have departments moving to a different fund. So the inter-college fund, student accommodations equipment expense, that's moving to the general fund. Again, with zero-based budgeting, we are able to now budget what is needed for the year versus setting money aside in case we need something. So again, we're going to a planning model versus a reactionary model. So with the revenue assumptions, I believe I brought last time we had a BAT Forum, I brought forward revenue assumptions. This is a little bit more detailed of those same assumptions. So tuition and fees, we're looking at a $2 tuition increase per credit. We are taking that forward to the board this month for approval. It'll be our second reading. I have reached out to ASG and met with them earlier. It was actually last month. And They don't see an issue with the $2 increase. They think it's very reasonable. Fees, we have a number of fees, and I believe this is listed on our budget website. It's also, we took it forward to the board last month, so there is a first reading of the resolution for all the course fees that are changing. Just for informational purposes, to explain what a dollar increase in tuition, what that revenue actually is, it's around $122,000. For enrollment, for the requested budget, we are looking at budgeting a 4% increase in tuition bearing credits. That does and doesn't equate to FTE. So our FTE, when we're looking at that, is more than just the general fund. And so as we're increasing, those numbers are a little bit different. And also, just for information, 1% of tuition bearing credits is around $149,000. Just to remind you what's in other revenue as we look at the projections, we have interest revenue that comes in, indirect costs from grants, facility rentals, and then just other revenue that comes in, and it's not the same type of thing that comes in every year. With property taxes, we are anticipating a 4.2% increase in our levy, and we hope to actually receive around a 4.5% increase as well, or 4.2% increase as well. Community College Support Fund, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the $854 million is what we are budgeting for revenue. We'll see where that actually comes in when they're done determining what the budget will be for the coming biennium. And then we have very few transfers into the general fund. We have one that comes in for financial aid. It's the overhead on the financial aid we receive. When we look at expenditure assumptions, again, personnel and benefits, within the budget, it's actually positions and benefits. We put an average increase for the past 5 years. One of our larger increases this coming year will be PERS. The rate has gone up 5.5%. So it's over $1 million that's increasing with PERS. With materials and services, we did zero-base those, and then we have accounting changes. So I will show you what that looks like. And then capital, we do have an accounting change, and that's the renewal or replacement fund coming in to the general fund. And then capital that's in there is actually zero-based as well. With our transfers out, this is money that we move to other funds. So we can account for things a little not differently, but differently than the general fund. So community and workforce training fund, within the projection I'm showing you, there's a $93,000 transfer out. Professional growth, $213,000, ASG, $145,000, athletics for $145,000, Alpha Zeta Pi is $11,000, capital projects is $620,000, and the innovation fund is $190,000. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions. So the projection that I'm showing you is actually the one I shared with the board and the budget committee itself a few weeks ago. And for the board, it was as of the board day. So this is the requested budget that E-Team has been working on and working with. This is actually what was requested by all the budget managers and came through. So let me walk you through what you're looking at. So first, the resources, all the assumptions I talked about, and we're looking at this first column, purple column here. And the revenue that we're anticipating is $52.3 million for the 25-26 fiscal year. When we look at the expenditure side, these first 4 rows of numbers are taking and moving forward what was in the budget. So when you're looking at personnel costs, this has to do with the PERS increase. We also have non-budgeted positions or non-budgeted positions. So think adjunct faculty, overtime, overload, temporary employees, those are in here. And this contains requested amounts for those types of personnel account numbers. Again, materials and services is coming over with what's requested. And then the capital, this is the major change I was talking about, where we're moving what was in the renewal and replacement fund into the general fund. It used to be a transfer out to the renewal and replacement fund. For a few years, we also took, when we had the tech fee, we would separate it and put it into the renewal and replacement fund. Rather than making all of that confusing, we're just putting it back into the general fund. And then I went through what the transfers out were. When we look at the proposed adjustments, these are the positions that have been requested, and then just the action packs that were requested as well through the budgeting process. So one of the things I will mention is we are in our fourth year of a 4-year plan to have our revenues meet or exceed our expenditures. And you can see within what our proposed budget is, it's $52.3 million for resources. And then our recommended budget is $61.3 million. So there's a large difference there. So E-Team has been working on looking at our budget and making some decisions. We are not done yet. We have another meeting or two that we will be having in the coming few weeks, but we are on target, and E-Team has done an amazing job having these conversations and working through the budget. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions.
Hi, Lisa. I have a question. This is Chelsea. Just curious, I hope I'm going to formulate my question right, but we're seeing the fees there with the projected 37 million and some change. That's the students' fees, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what do we have a way of keeping track of what all those are going towards because of the transfer out? Isn't that mostly student success, student type support?
There's actually a mixture of fees in there, and we charge a universal fee to our students, and that covers more than just direct student activities such as ASG or athletics. So there's also all of the course fees, and all of those expenses are in departments. The course fees help to pay for the additional supplies, and then the additional costs of courses that like practicums or require, I'm going to ask Julia to help remind me of the name. I've lost it.
Clinicals?
Clinicals, thank you. Labs, those types of things where the student to faculty ratio is higher. The student to faculty ratio is lower.
Okay, but the student fee that we're seeing there, that's also lumping up the other fees that students pay maybe in addition to the regular general students because of their program that they're in. Is that what I'm hearing?
We don't have a student fee. We have fees we charge to students, but we don't have a Chelsea.
Right, but that is student paid fees is what I mean.
Mm-hmm. They're all the fees that we charge to students.
Right. Going back to what you were mentioning earlier about, I think you were talking about the technology costs and things is going to be different. Are we looking at some of the student fees that students are paying to going to support an increase in technology support, like laptops and things like that?
Are you asking if we're increasing the amount we set aside for laptops to students, or are you asking if that fee helps us support those activities?
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm just curious maybe where that comes from. And then because we're moving into a planned budgeting instead of, setting aside, I don't know how that budget is laid out for supporting students' technology needs.
So the IT department actually works on putting together a request in their budget and action packs to request laptops and replacement of computer labs. We are working on a 5-year replacement schedule. But it will probably be another 6 to 9 months before we actually have something to work with.
Okay, so maybe that's my question is, are we able to see an increase, like are we projecting an increase in support for not the labs, but my concern is just the laptops. Like, are we looking at an increase in support for those based on what we've had come forward in the budget pack?
There was a micro grant that was approved for an additional $10,000 for laptops in the computer labs. I believe that there was also an action pack brought forward. Whether the action pack is approved or not, we'll see at the end of the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you answering all my questions.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I love to see the sun, and it's nice to see the sun go down after 6 p.m. Very nice. So I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. If you do have questions, please reach out to Natalie or myself, and we will get back to you.